Thank you. Thank you. First, let me say what a huge honor it is to have been introduced by and really led on by and really funded and supported by the Black Student Union here at the University of Dubuque. As you can see, I'm neither black nor a student, so it probably would be odd in the eyes of some that the BSU would be so supportive of an event, but I hope that through this event and through the conversation that will follow from here, a couple of things will happen. Number one, that those of you who are here to hear me, and I appreciate you being here, will be as supportive and as present at the other events that the BSU is putting on throughout this month. Because it is one thing to come and hear the white guy talk about racism. It is one thing to come and hear the white guy talk about institutional injustice. It is one thing to hear the white guy come and talk about institutional white privilege. It is quite another to be comfortable enough to come to the events that every day and every week, every month are taking place on this campus, the conversations that people of color are leading, with or without the white guy in the room, right? And to actually sit in that room and to hear black and brown truth spoken by black and brown people, not just by the white guy that they brought in. So, even though I'm very glad to be here, very honored to be here, very privileged to be here, and I don't just mean white privileged, I mean like generally privileged to be here, and very happy to do so, I want to make it clear to you that if you're not at those other events, some of which, were mentioned a second ago, if you don't continue to come to the events for Black History Month, like the discussion about the issue of whiteness when it's not going to be led by a white person, then I think we have a problem, right? And the real evidence that we have progressed as a society will be when the audiences that come to my talks, and for whom I'm very grateful, and the readers who read my books and read my essays on my blog and all of that, for whom I'm eternally grateful, are just as willing to hear that truth spoken by the people who are really the source of that wisdom. And so, before I get started, let us please once again give a round of applause for the young brothers and sisters of the Black Student Union at this institution, please. Thank you. We're at this very interesting point, I think, as a country. And I've been at this for a long time, I've been doing anti-racism work around the country for 20 years as of this spring, so right now. And I've been doing some form of anti-racism work, community-based grassroots work, in addition to this work on the road for 25, so a quarter of a century. So in that period of time, I'm very mindful, not only of the passage of time, but what that passage of time means. And so too, as a country, we are right now, in case you hadn't noticed, sort of in this commemorative mode, right? And I say that because we are in this year, 2015, celebrating what? The 50th anniversary of the Voting Rights Act, the 50th anniversary of the Selma to Montgomery March. So if you haven't seen the film, you certainly should. It's a fabulous film that commemorates this long march toward freedom and liberation in this country, still very much unfinished. Last year, we celebrated the 50th anniversary of the Civil Rights Act. The year before that, the 50th anniversary of the March on Washington, the Birmingham campaign, the killing of Medgar Evers, the head of the Mississippi NAACP in his driveway in Jackson, the 50th anniversary a couple of years ago of George Wallace, the governor of Alabama, standing in the schoolhouse door and insisting that the university should remain segregated then and forever. So the last couple of years, we've been wrapped up in this commemorative mode where we're looking backward in time, and what we're doing is we are saying, essentially, look how far we've come, because that's what commemorations are, aren't they? Like, commemorations are about looking backward and being proud of yourself, essentially. That's not to say we shouldn't do it. We should do it. It's important to mark our progress, however incomplete that progress might be. Nothing wrong with that. And God knows enough folks fought and died for the Voting Rights Act, the Civil Rights Act, the Fair Housing Act in '68, and all the progress that we've made, that it would be untoward of us to ignore that or to act like it didn't matter. Obviously it does. And yet, having said that, there is also danger when we get caught in that commemoration mode, right? Because when you're commemorating all your progress, and you're looking backward down the road that you already came down and talking about how far you've come, it's very easy, isn't it, to get caught in a moment and to get trapped in history, not paying attention to the road that still lies ahead of you. So it's sort of like going on a road trip from the tip of Maine at one corner of the country down to San Diego at the other corner. Right? Imagine if you were on a road trip with your family, right, from Maine to San Diego. That's a long-ass trip, Maine to San Diego, right? And you get to Kansas, and the parents in the front seat are like, wow, look how far we've come from Maine. We have made a lot of progress. But you know full well what the kids in the back are going to say, right? They're going to say, yeah, are we there yet? When are we going to get to San Diego? This has been a really long ride. See, children, young people don't care about commemoration so much. It's not that they don't value how far we've come, but young people want to know where they're headed because they're young, and that's the impetuousness and the beauty of youth, right? So those of us who are a little bit older, sometimes we get caught up in nostalgia. We get caught up in looking back and talking about how great it was when everybody marched with Dr. King. Don't believe that for a second, right? White folks will tell you that, though. Every white person I meet says they march with Dr. King. It's funny. They could be like 19. They say they march with Dr. King. How the hell did you march with Dr. King? He was killed when I was 2 months in my mama's womb, so I know you didn't know him, right? Folks are like, oh, I was at the March on Washington. Yeah, but you were like 2, so that doesn't count. You didn't consciously choose to go. Right? And I don't even believe you went at all. Like, let's be honest, right? If everybody that said they marched with Dr. King actually did so, we wouldn't have to be here talking about racism in 2015 because we'd have crushed that a really long time ago. So it's like when white folks say they have black friends. Like, no, you don't. No, you really don't. No, you really don't. Right? I mean, you might have black folks you're friendly with. Friendly is not friends, right? Like, let's just be honest. I'm not saying that's true for all of y'all. Like, I know there's some white folks that do have friends of color. I know some white folks actually did date an Asian woman. I know some of y'all actually hang out with Mexican folk, be they documented or not. I know some of y'all got dream catchers in your rear view mirror and think you're actually Native American. I get it. You've been to a powwow. You think you're indigenous now. I get it. I understand. Yeah, see, we got another hour of this, so y'all better strap in. It's going to get worse.